Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
An activity that varies from a norm or standard. Any variation in his routine was immediately reported. The angle, at a particular location, between magnetic north and true north. Ballet, a solo dance or dance figure. Biology, an organism that has characteristics resulting from chromosomal alteration. Something a little different from others of the same type. An emery wheel is the modern variation of a grindstone. An instance of change, the rate or magnitude of change. An artifact that deviates from a norm or standard. He patented a variation on the sandal. A repetition of a musical theme in which it is modified or embellished. Astronomy. Any perturbation of the mean motion or orbit of a planet or satellite, especially a perturbation of the Earth's moon. The act of changing or altering something slightly but noticeably from the norm or standard. Who is responsible for these variations in taxation? The process of varying or being varied. A difference between conflicting facts or claims or opinions. An activity that varies from a norm or standard. Discord that splits a group. An event that departs from expectations. The quality of being subject to variation. An official dispensation to act contrary to a rule or regulation, typically a building regulation. A zoning variance. The second moment around the mean. The expected value of the square of the deviations of a random variable from its mean value. The angle, at a particular location, between magnetic north and true north. The angle, at a particular location, between magnetic north and true north. Ballet, a solo dance or dance figure. Biology, an organism that has characteristics resulting from chromosomal alteration. An animal that has undergone mutation. Tending to undergo or resulting from mutation. A mutant gene. Genetics. Any event that changes genetic structure. Any alteration in the inherited nucleic acid sequence of the genotype of an organism. Biology. An organism that has characteristics resulting from chromosomal alteration. A change or alteration in form or qualities. Someone who engages in sports. Play boisterously. Maine colloquial, a temporary summer resident of Maine. Wear or display in an ostentatious or proud manner. She was sporting a new hat. An active diversion requiring physical exertion and competition. Biology. An organism that has characteristics resulting from chromosomal alteration. Verbal wit or mockery, often at another's expense but not to be taken seriously. He said it in sport. A person known for the way she, or he, behaves when teased or defeated or subjected to trying circumstances. A good sport. The occupation of athletes who compete for pay. Something a little different from others of the same type. The boy is a younger edition of his father. All of the identical copies of something offered to the public at the same time. The first edition appeared in 1920. An issue of a newspaper. He read it in yesterday's edition of the Times. The form in which a text, especially a printed book, is published. An event that departs from expectations. Biology. A group of organisms within a species that differ in trivial ways from similar groups. A variable quantity that is random. Something a little different from others of the same type. A variant of the same word. Differing from a norm or standard. A variant spelling. Exhibiting variation and change. Letters variant in size. A written communication in a second language having the same meaning as the written communication in a first language. A written work, as a novel, that has been recast in a new form. A mental representation of the meaning or significance of something. Something a little different from others of the same type. An experimental version of the night fighter. An interpretation of a matter from a particular viewpoint. His version of the fight was different from mine. Manual turning of a fetus in the uterus, usually to aid delivery. The quality of being unsteady and subject to changes. He kept a record of price fluctuations. An instance of change, the rate or magnitude of change. A wave motion. The fluctuations of the sea. An organic process that takes place in the body. Respiratory activity. The state of being active. His sphere of activity. The trait of being active, moving or acting rapidly and energetically. The level of activity declines with age. A process existing in or produced by nature, rather than by the intent of human beings. Volcanic activity. Any specific behavior. They avoided all recreational activity. Chemistry. The capacity of a substance to take part in a chemical reaction. Catalytic activity. A biased way of looking at or presenting something. Seek indirectly. Present with a bias. To incline or bend from a vertical position. A member of a Germanic people who conquered England and merged with the Saxons and Jutes to become Anglo-Saxons. Fish with a hook. Move or proceed at an angle. He angled his way into the room. The space between two lines or planes that intersect. The inclination of one line to another, measured in degrees or radians. Taking a series of rhythmical steps and movements in time to music. Taking a series of rhythmical steps and movements in time to music. Greek mythology, the muse of the dance and of choral song. Move in a pattern, usually to musical accompaniment. Do or perform a dance. My husband and I like to dance at home to the radio. Taking a series of rhythmical steps and movements in time to music. An artistic form of nonverbal communication. A party for social dancing. A party of people assembled for dancing. Move in a graceful and rhythmical way. The young girl danced into the room. Skip, leap, or move up and down or sideways. The children danced with joy. A light, self-propelled movement upwards or forwards. An abrupt transition. Taking a series of rhythmical steps and movements in time to music. Genetics. A mutation that drastically changes the phenotype of an organism or species. Geology. The leaping movement of sand or soil particles as they are transported in a fluid medium over an uneven surface. A living thing that has, or can develop, the ability to act or function independently. A system considered analogous in structure or function to a living body. The social organism. The state or fact of existing. A point of view gradually coming into being. A living thing that has, or can develop, the ability to act or function independently. A person of a specified kind, usually with many eccentricities. The capable type. Identify as belonging to a certain type. Such people can practically be typed. Write by means of a keyboard with types. Type the acceptance letter, please. All of the tokens of the same symbol. The word element contains 5 different types of character. A small metal block bearing a raised character on one end produces a printed character when inked and pressed on paper. He dropped a case of type, so they made him pick them up. A subdivision of a particular kind of thing. What type of sculpture do you prefer? Biology. The taxonomic group whose characteristics are used to define the next higher taxon. Printed characters. Small type is hard to read. Lay aside, abandon, or leave for another. The car changed lanes. Cause to change. Make different. Cause a transformation. The discussion has changed my thinking about the issue. Exchange or replace with another, usually of the same kind or category. He changed his name. An event that occurs when something passes from one state or phase to another. The change was intended to increase sales. Become different in some particular way, without permanently losing one's or its former characteristics or essence. Her mood changes in accordance with the weather. Give to, and receive from, one another. Would you change places with me? Become deeper in tone. His voice began to change when he was 12 years old. Change from one vehicle or transportation line to another. She changed in Chicago on her way to the East Coast. A difference that is usually pleasant. It is a refreshing change to meet a woman mechanic. A different or fresh set of clothes. She brought a change in her overnight bag. A relational difference between states, especially between states before and after some event. He attributed the change to their marriage. A thing that is different. He inspected several changes before selecting one. Change clothes. Put on different clothes. Coins of small denomination regarded collectively. He had a pocketful of change. Money received in return for its equivalent in a larger denomination or a different currency. He got change for a 20 and used it to pay the taxi driver. Remove or replace the coverings of. Father had to learn how to change the baby. The action of changing something. The change of government had no impact on the economy. The balance of money received when the amount you tender is greater than the amount due. I paid with a 20 and pocketed the change. The result of alteration or modification. There were marked changes in the lining of the lungs. Undergo a change. Become different in essence, losing one's or its original nature. She changed completely as she grew older. The act of making something different, as e.g. the size of a garment. An event that occurs when something passes from one state or phase to another. The act of revising or altering, involving reconsideration and modification. The act of making something different, as e.g. the size of a garment. An event that occurs when something passes from one state or phase to another. The neighborhood had undergone few modifications since his last visit years ago. The grammatical relation that exists when a word qualifies the meaning of the phrase. Slightly modified copy. Not an exact copy. A modification of last year's model. A vaguely specified concern. Things are going well. An action. How could you do such a thing? An artifact. How does this thing work? An entity that is not named specifically. I couldn't tell what the thing was. An event. A funny thing happened on the way to the. Any attribute or quality considered as having its own existence. The thing I like about her is. A persistent illogical feeling of desire or aversion. He has a thing about seafood. A separate and self-contained entity. A special abstraction. A thing of the spirit. A special objective. The thing is to stay in bounds. A special situation. This thing has got to end. A statement regarded as an object. To say the same thing in other terms. Music, melodic subject of a musical composition. The theme is announced in the first measures. An essay, especially one written as an assignment. Linguistics, the form of a word after all affixes are removed. The subject matter of a conversation or discussion. His letters were always on the theme of love. A unifying idea that is a recurrent element in literary or artistic work. It was the usual, boy gets girl, theme. Provide with a particular theme or motive. The restaurant often themes its menus. Music, melodic subject of a musical composition. Music, melodic subject of a musical composition. The accompanist picked up the idea and elaborated it. An approximate calculation of quantity or degree or worth. A rough idea how long it would take. The content of cognition, the main thing you are thinking about. It was not a good idea. Your intention, what you intend to do. The idea of the game is to capture all the pieces. A personal view. He has an idea that we don't like him. Music, melodic subject of a musical composition. A disposition that is confused or nervous and upset. Activity that is a malfunction, intrusion, or interruption. The term, distress, connotes some degree of perturbation and emotional upset. The act of causing disorder. An unhappy and worried mental state. Physics, a secondary influence on a system that causes it to deviate slightly. A natural prolongation or projection from a part of an organism, either animal or plant. A bony process. A writ issued by authority of law. Usually compels the defendant's attendance in a civil suit. Failure to appear results in a default judgment against the defendant. Shape, form, or improve a material. Process iron. Deliver a warrant or summons to someone. He was processed by the sheriff. A sustained phenomenon or one marked by gradual changes through a series of states. Events now in process. Institute legal proceedings against. File a suit against. He was warned that the district attorney would process him. March in a procession. They processed into the dining room. A particular course of action intended to achieve a result. It was a process of trial and error. Psychology. The performance of some composite cognitive activity. An operation that affects mental contents. The process of thinking. A mental process that you are not directly aware of. The process of denial. Subject to a process or treatment, with the aim of readying for some purpose, improving, or remedying a condition. Process cheese. Deal with in a routine way. Process alone. Perform mathematical and logical operations on data, according to programmed instructions in order to obtain the required information. The results of the elections were still being processed when he gave his acceptance speech.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.